Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to another episode of Treknalysis. Miles Edward O'Brien, family man, chief engineer of Deep Space Nine, transporter chief on the Enterprise, and badass.
I tore my pants!
I am Chief Miles Edward O'Brien.
We were sitting here. Well, we're sitting here now.
The guy that started off as a minor character on Next Gen would go on to become one of the franchise's most beloved characters, and it's largely thanks to the Star Trek The Next Generation Season 4 episode, The Wounded. This was the first O'Brien-centric episode, and I consider it one of the top 10 episodes of Next Gen. I also listed as one of the episodes you should watch before starting DS9 since it defines a lot of important concepts for the show. So, let's talk about the Chief. But before I go further, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I talk a lot about Star Trek, video games, and whatever else I feel like talking about. And if you'd like to help support the channel, consider becoming a member. Be great to have you aboard. The episode begins with a simple mapping survey near the Cardassian sector. The Federation and the Cardassians had signed a peace treaty about a year ago. Which is kinda odd considering this is Season 4 and this is the first time we're hearing about it. And apparently this conflict goes as far back to when Picard was on the Stargazers, so even before Next Gen even started.
Last time I was in this sector, I was on the Stargazer running at warp speed ahead of a Cardassian warship.
The Enterprise is waiting for a hail from a Cardassian ship to proceed into their territory since they still want to protect their borders. Mr. Worf, however, doesn't trust the Cardassians.
They're our allies now, Mr. Worf. We have to trust them.
Wrong. Ally is not the same thing as friend. A friendship is built up over time with a history of goodwill between two peoples or parties, leading to a level of trust. An ally is currently cooperating with you for mutual benefit, and if that alliance isn't benefiting everyone, it can always be dropped. There's no guarantee that you can trust your ally to act in your best interest, but with a friend, you reasonably can.
Trust is earned, not given away.
Damn straight, Mr. Worf. Meanwhile, in the O'Brien quarters, Mr. and the new Mrs. O'Brien are enjoying breakfast. Well, one of them is.
What is it?
Kelp buds, plankton loaf, and sea berries.
It's very healthy.
Hashtag O'Brien must suffer. The O'Briens have been married for one episode, so even though they're still in that honeymoon phase, there's only so much a man can take.
Sweetheart, I'm not a fish.
Tired of eating fish food, Miles makes a suggestion. Since Keiko's been introducing him to her cooking, he would like to share some of his favorite cuisine with her because isn't sharing what marriage is all about?
What kind of foods? Kind of heavy.
I've said it before. Why does Miles need to have an open mind when trying new food, but Keiko doesn't? Miles starts to reminisce about home and how his mom used to cook food without a replicator.
She cooked, she handled real meat, she touched it and cut it.
Why is this so weird to you, Keiko? Look, I know it's a few years off, but Sisko's known for being a cook on DS9. His father is a cook, the Klingon chef has a restaurant, and nobody even bats an eye. Heck, Riker was cooking scrambled eggs in his quarters a few seasons ago. Granted, only Worf liked it, but still!
Delicious.
This is actually one of the first references to non-replicated food versus replicated food. It's more expanded upon in DS9, but while replicated food is convenient and similar, it's usually presented as being inferior to actual food. Heck, even Sisko grows his own veggies for his cooking.
It took me 3 months to grow them. Nobody touches my peppers.
However, for the time being, Miles is stuck using the replicator, but manages to convince Keiko to try his cooking.
Okay. Maybe I'll have something special for you tonight, too.
Miles, run. But before his sexy time can commence, we're saved by the red alert. The Enterprise has met up with a Cardassian ship, and the Cardassians took that personally. And after a little fight with the Enterprise clearly winning, Picard hails the Cardassians and they answer.
I am Galmus Sets.
Get out of here, Gul Dukat.
Homer? Who is Homer? My name is Guy Incognito.
Yes, before swaggering his way through DS9 to tempt fate with Sisko's baseball, Mark Alaimo swaggered onto the Enterprise as the franchise's first Cardassian, only to go on to play one of Trek's most memorable villains. But before he donned the Cardassian mullet, he donned the Cardassian goatee and underpants helmet. Neither of which appears in the show again. Gul Macet claims that a Federation starship attacked a Cardassian science station and destroyed it. Picard knows nothing about this, so he's going to talk to Starfleet. One of Starfleet's finest, Captain Benjamin Maxwell of the USS Phoenix, is waging a private war against the Cardassians. He's not taking anyone's calls, and he keeps attacking Cardassian outposts and ships. The Enterprise is the closest ship, because of course it is, so Picard is being sent to investigate with some Cardassian observers on board with one goal in mind: preserve the peace no matter the cost, since the Federation isn't prepared to enter into a new war. Now, I have my issues with this. Yes, peace is good. Nobody likes war, and can't we all just get along? But what if Captain Maxwell has reasons for doing what he's doing? What if there's just cause to enter into war? And if the Cardassians really are up to something, should they be allowed to get away with it? And unfortunately, more often than not throughout the Star Trek shows, they kinda do. In hindsight, especially with what went on in Season 6's Chain of Command, Starfleet is being awfully trusting that the Cardassians aren't up to something. Sounds like one hell of a security concern to me. And you know who else also thinks so? Worf. And once again, Worf voices a legitimate security concern. Maybe we should, I don't know, assign a security detail to the Cardassians while they're on board the ship?
They're our guests, Mr. Worf. I don't want them to feel like prisoners.
Reject!
I tend to agree with Mr. Worf, Captain.
Picard does agree to let Worf post guards at sensitive areas on the ship.
But you instruct your people they are our guests.
It also turns out that Chief O'Brien once served with Captain Maxwell, so Picard's going to get him in on this. Hey, anything to avoid more plankton loaf, am I right?
It's very healthy.
The search for Captain Maxwell and the Phoenix begins with a meeting. They don't really know where to look, so they're heading for his last known location, and Mark Alaimo's swagger is on full display.
Captain Picard, you can understand that we are skeptical.
The guy may have been typecast, but he's great at what he does.
Why have you fired on us?
Curious question, Captain. We are not the ones who have abandoned it, Captain.
Picard assuages Gul Macet's concerns by reassuring him that they're being included in everything and they're hearing everything as Picard hears it. Which shows a strong sense of integrity on Picard's part, which is something I can always appreciate. Nothing up his sleeves, folks. And panning out, we see that Chief O'Brien has been included in the conversation as well. I find it interesting that O'Brien's presence in this meeting isn't revealed until about halfway through the scene. The attention might not be immediately on him, but he nevertheless plays a vital role in this episode. O'Brien served under Captain Maxwell during the war, and they both witnessed the massacre on Setlik 3, where a group of Cardassians raided a Federation civilian outpost where nearly 100 civilians were killed, including Captain Maxwell's family. From this information, Gul Macet deduces that Captain Maxwell is out for revenge. And Miles takes that personally.
Is taking retribution for his own loss.
Captain Maxwell would never...
Gentlemen, please.
However, the meeting is cut short with the Phoenix being found. Picard and Gul Macet head to the bridge, and Miles and two other Cardassian observers find themselves in the turbo lift, with Miles looking extremely uncomfortable and not in the mood for conversation. So clearly it's a good idea to engage in small talk. To Glenn Darrow's credit, which I had to look up that that's his name, he's making an attempt to connect with O'Brien, complimenting his captain, talking shop, stuff like that. And Miles just shuts the guy down. But the straw that breaks the transporter chief's back? We're heading to 10 forward. Want to come with?
But who I choose to spend my free time with, that's my business.
Sorry I mentioned it.
Well, this is awkward. Let's head to the bridge.
It will give us more precise coordinates and the ship's coded transponder frequency. We would be...
Dude, what? That's one hell of a request there. The Federation and Cardassians have only been at peace for about a year, and he's asking not just for coordinates of a Starfleet ship, but also the ability to disable its shields. That's asking a lot of people you were at war with a year ago. So how about Worf's security concerns there, eh, Captain?
They're our guests, Mr. Worf. I don't want them to feel like prisoners.
Picard, however, wants to take the diplomatic route, insisting he make first contact with the Phoenix. Yes, now Keiko must suffer. Who's laughing now, Keiko? Plankton loaf? No, potato casserole.
What are these little dark things?
Capers.
During dinner, Miles begins to reminisce about the war, singing a song that they used to sing when he served on Captain Maxwell's old ship, the Rutledge. Admit it, the only reason you know the Minstrel Boy is because of this episode.
The minstrel boy to the war is gone. In the ranks of death you will find him.
Miles observes that he could tell during the meeting that there were people in that room who still don't like the Cardassians, conveniently forgetting that he blew a fuse 5 minutes ago when one of them asked if he wanted to go drinking with them.
Well, how do you feel about them?
But who I choose to spend my free time with, that's my business. I feel fine.
You can tell Keiko's a little uncomfortable in this scene, and I'm not sure if it's because she's uncomfortable with Miles' lingering prejudice against the Cardassians, or if it's the prospect of eating potatoes.
Potatoes?
Meanwhile, Galmaset is upset that the Enterprise can read the transponder codes on the Cardassian ships, and really starts pushing for Captain Maxwell's codes. So Picard orders Worf to hand them over.
The Phoenix will not have a chance.
Cannot allow Maxwell to ambush that supply ship.
Rejected! But it doesn't really matter anyways, because the Phoenix ends up destroying both ships in the area, a warship and a supply ship. So Picard heads over to the transporter room to have a word with his transporter chief about his former captain. Miles insists that there's a reason why Captain Maxwell is going after the Cardassians the way he is. They're definitely up to something. Picard then asks how Captain Maxwell took the loss of his family, and Miles notes that he actually took it very well. Even though he was hurting inside, he kept working, and you'd never know anything was wrong by looking at him. Okay, someone should have told him to take time off. Order it if you have to. I've seen it done in other Star Trek shows. Heck, have the CMO or ship's counselor insist on it. Either way, Miles stands firm that Captain Maxwell would never retaliate out of vengeance.
You don't care for the Cardassians?
I like them fine. But who I choose to spend my free time with, that's my business.
Miles heads off to 10 forward, and look who's still at the bar!
Mind if I join you?
So, with an ale in hand and a...
Kanar?
Kanar?
I wouldn't trust a Cardassian that didn't enjoy a glass of Kanar every once in a while.
I just shared a bottle of Kanar with Damar.
I never could develop a taste for it.
Miles apologizes to Darrow for snapping at him in the turbo lift, and Darrow acknowledges that this whole thing has been hard on all of them. They get to talking, and when O'Brien explains he was on Setlik 3 and saw the aftermath, it turns out that Darrow was also at Setlik 3, obviously on the other side.
It was a terrible mistake. We were told the outpost was a launching place for a massive attack against us.
Here we have two regular guys from two different races who fought in the same war, trying to explain themselves to the other as a way of apology. O'Brien snapped at Darrow in the turbo lift, and he apologizes and provides an explanation why he wasn't welcoming to the Cardassians. Darrow understands this, and in a way of apology, acknowledges that the attack was wrong and that they were given bad information. It doesn't make any of the wrongs right, and certainly decimating a civilian outpost is inexcusable. But we're seeing these two guys take the first steps to make amends, and maybe seeing that they're not so different after all. Maybe Darrow just got married and his wife is making him eat kelp buds, plankton loaf, sea berries. You know what? If Miles bonding with Cardassians over their hatred of certain foods is ever considered canon, I'd be okay with it. This leads into some of the best acting to come out of O'Brien in all of Trek. He recounts protecting a group of women and children from 2 Cardassian soldiers on Setlik. He was able to stun one, but the other one took him by surprise, and they struggled until one of the women threw him a phaser, unbeknownst to him set to maximum.
The man just incinerated there before my eyes. I'd never killed anything before.
While Miles would go on to be known as the hero of Setlik 3, it deeply affected him and changed him forever. He had originally gone into Starfleet to become an engineer, not a soldier. He ends his story with an extremely chilling line, excellently delivered by Colm Meaney.
It's not you I hate, Cardassian. I hate what I became. Because of you.
This had to be the scene to solidify Chief O'Brien as a character in Star Trek. Before, he was a minor character. Heck, he didn't even get a last name until Season 2, and even didn't get a first name until 2 years later. Now, he's Starfleet's most badass engineer. Heck, DS9 further added to this, saying he saw 235 separate engagements and was decorated 15 times. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Worf's security concerns are proven right once again when he finds one of the Cardassians snooping around a computer looking at weapons information. But, oh, it was an accident. I didn't know that was in the files.
What business did you have going near one of their computers?
Gomez confines his officer to quarters and apologizes to Picard. Picard, however, considers the matter closed.
If there is to be a lasting peace, Gomez said, neither you nor I must allow any one man to undermine our efforts.
The Enterprise finds the Phoenix, and Captain Maxwell beams on board. And for all the trouble he's causing, he's a likable guy. He's friendly, he compliments Riker on his job with the Borg, he's happy to see O'Brien again, and speaks glowingly of his service on the Rutledge.
Well, if that's true, I learned it from you, sir.
But you got that silver tongue by kissing the stone, right?
Under different circumstances, he seems like a good, regular guy who just happens to be a captain. Unfortunately, he has some stuff he has to answer for.
You must think I've gone mad.
Thought had occurred.
Captain Maxwell claims the Cardassians are arming again. That science station he destroyed? Actually a military supply port. Sounds serious. So, how did he find out?
Information comes my way.
That's it? You're waging a war against the Cardassians without proof? A communique, intercepted message, a bunch of shady-looking ships with boxes of phasers being unloaded? Anything!
Evidence! I can smell it. There's no good reason for a science station in the Quayar system.
That's not evidence, that's speculation! Picard isn't having any of it. Captain Maxwell isn't answering his questions, he didn't report it to Starfleet, he got a lot of people killed, and there's some pretty strong speculation that he's out for revenge. Picard orders Captain Maxwell to report to the nearest starbase with the Enterprise escorting him. He's going to allow him some dignity so he'll get to retain his command on the way back and not get his ass thrown in the brig.
I understand your orders.
Yes, Captain.
But understanding orders and actually following them are two different things. Go for broke! Captain Maxwell, with the Enterprise in pursuit, leads them to another Cardassian ship, threatening that if Picard doesn't board the ship and investigate it, he'll blow it up. O'Brien, however, offers to beam aboard to talk to Captain Maxwell, managing to beam through the Phoenix's shields. It's clear that Captain Maxwell still thinks there's a war going on because even though there's a peace treaty, the Cardassians live to make war. Miles points out that that's what everyone thinks about the enemy, and that's probably what they think about the Federation as well. But Captain Maxwell insists that they're nothing like them. And this is where he starts to break down about what happened to his family.
Children. We never had the chance to grow up.
O'Brien, however, is able to talk some sense into him. Through song. Yes, the soothing tones of the Chief's voice are enough to soothe the troubled soul of a rogue Starfleet captain.
His father's sword he hath girded on.
Now, Next Gen does an excellent job with small, quiet moments. The acting is very subtle, but conveys a lot of strong emotion, something that 90s Trek does pretty well with. When Captain Maxwell and O'Brien finish singing The Minstrel Boy, Captain Maxwell comes to a slow realization, processing everything that's happened before finally accepting defeat, saying as an instrumental version of The Minstrel Boy plays,
I'm not going to win this one, am I, Chief? No, sir.
Ben Maxwell turns himself in. During debriefing, Miles still insists that he was a good man, and even though what he did was wrong, he's nevertheless proud to have served with him. After he leaves, Gomasset scoffs at this loyalty, no doubt basking in a little bit of that Marcolimo arrogance he so skillfully conveys.
His loyalty is admirable, even if it is misplaced.
Picard, however, isn't having any of it. Ben Maxwell earned the Chief's loyalty, which isn't easy to do. And I imagine this is something that's difficult for Cardassians to wrap their mind around in light of what DS9 reveals about them, where loyalty to the state is not only expected, but demanded. Ben Maxwell was also a decorated war hero who couldn't find a place for himself in peace. We can pity him for that, but not dismiss him.
I, for one, am grateful he is under lock and key.
But the kicker? Ben Maxwell was right. There was no science station, was there? The station's location near 3 Federation sectors, the supplies going there? Gomasset then questions why Picard chose not to board the ship when Captain Maxwell demanded it. And it all comes back to Picard's orders.
I was here to protect the peace.
Yeah, I have some problems with that because the Cardassians were up to something that was cause for concern, but it ends up getting dismissed because Ben Maxwell went about it the wrong way. The only thing now is that the Federation knows something might be coming in the future.
We'll be watching.
He just did a reverse Bond villain chair spin. Like a boss. And that was The Wounded. Excellent episode. Wonderfully acted, defines a lot of concepts that help develop DS9, and excels at quiet moments. The episode focuses on 2 wounded men from the war with the Cardassians, Chief O'Brien and Captain Maxwell. Both men saw firsthand what the Cardassians were capable of, which resulted in their prejudices against them. The difference is that after the war, O'Brien was able to make a life for himself in peacetime as a transporter chief and even settling down to start a family. Captain Maxwell, however, never recovered from the loss of his family and could never be at peace. Even with a peace treaty, his war continued. In some ways, he's not unlike John Rambo in First Blood, unable to live a regular life, still bearing deep scars and trauma from the war, going rogue and refusing to listen to his superior officers until the very end when he collapses in despair. You end up pitying both characters despite their actions throughout their stories. Heck, the scene where both men break down and give themselves up ends up being among the strongest scenes in their stories.
The war is over. You're wrong.
It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing!
It also would have been interesting to see how a similar story would have played out on DS9 with Sisko handling the investigation. I'm willing to bet that Sisko would have done an off-the-record investigation of the ship to find out if Ben Maxwell's claims were true, bending the rules in ways that Picard simply wouldn't have been willing to do. If you haven't seen this episode, go watch it. I count it among my top Next Gen episodes. It's top-tier Trek.
One faithful harp shall praise thee.
So, what do you think? How did you like The Wounded? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was Captain Maxwell right? Should Starfleet have investigated his claims further, or was keeping the peace more important? And what are some of your favorite Star Trek episodes? Please, leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Treknalysis. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time,
we'll be watching.